Discover how a rebellious lady unexpectedly changed the life of a duke pretending to be a doctor. Clara Montgomery was the heartbeat of Maplewood, Indiana. Just 28, her laughter echoed through the town like a joyful bell, but her heart bore the weight of her single mother's struggles after losing Clara's father. In a community fraying at the edges, she kept the threads of connection strong, thanks to their cherished tradition of potluck dinners that brought everyone together. As she wiped down tables at the Good Grub Diner, Clara could almost taste the warmth of mashed potatoes and fried chicken, the smell of cinnamon rolls filling the air like a comforting hug, but joy was hard to find lately. The factory Maplewood's main employer was shutting down, and the news lurked like a storm cloud over the town. Frustration churned in Clara's stomach as she watched her neighbor's spirits sag under the burden of uncertainty. "We can't give up," she declared one night, rallying her friends after dinner. "If we band together, we can support each other." As she fought to protect her community, everything changed one fateful evening at the clinic. Clara spotted him, a familiar face from her childhood, now cloaked in scrubs. It was Dr. James Harrington, her once privileged friend who had worn a life of ease like a crown. But here he was, a duke fallen from grace. Swift and silent, he tucked his past away like an old coat, dedicating himself to serving the very people his lineage had once ignored. As the two locked eyes, an unspoken truth hung between them, crackling with tension. Clara dove into her plans to save the struggling clinic. "A fundraiser. We'll organize a gala potluck style," she announced. The townsfolk murmured, their brows furrowing in concern, but she filled them with hope. "Together, we can do this," she reassured, not realizing James was already working behind the scenes, attempting to fund the very effort she was planning. Days turned into weeks, and Clara sensed change, but when she stumbled upon a forgotten family portrait in James's bag, everything shifted. The brooding glance of the boy she'd known, now a man with burdens heavier than his title, ignited a storm of emotions within her. Was this betrayal? Had she been fooled? With fists clenched and heart racing, she confronted him. "Why didn't you tell me? This isn't just about looking out for the town. You've hidden a part of yourself." In that charged moment, vulnerabilities spilled over. Clara's tough exterior cracked, revealing fears of failure and doubt. James stood still, the tempest of shame and yearning swirling behind his eyes. They were two wounded souls wrapped in the agony of the past, yet the weight of their connection hung heavy in the air. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. With the fundraiser looming, Clara felt the walls of their town closing in. She needed James, his expertise, his ties, his understanding. Together, they could forge a path forward, not just for the clinic but for themselves. Doubt and possibility collided. The clinic rested on a razor's edge, and with every heartbeat, the town of Maplewood waited, uncertain yet desperately hopeful. Could Clara forgive James? Would his past as a duke finally release him from disgrace? As they faced the unyielding storms ahead, one truth stood clear: their very souls were on the brink of rebirth, and the journey was just beginning. The sun dipped low, casting a golden hue over Maplewood as Clara hurried home, her mind racing with fragmented thoughts. She needed a plan, and quickly. The fundraiser was just around the corner, and the pressure was mounting. Yet, every time she tried to focus on details like the location or the menu, images of James haunted her mind. His face, lined with both regret and determination, wouldn't fade. "Why didn't you tell me?" Clara whispered to herself, shaking her head as if that would release her from the weight of his secrets. She could almost feel the warmth of his presence, his voice low and soothing, but their last encounter played in her mind like an unwanted film reel, a reminder of just how vulnerable she had been. Her mother's voice chimed in from the kitchen, cutting through her thoughts. Clara, honey, is everything all right? Just busy, Ma. Clara called back, forcing a smile, even if her heart wasn't in it. She needed to put on a brave face for her mother, who had sacrificed so much for her. But with every pot she stirred and every dish she served, doubt gnawed at her. What if her plans failed? What if they couldn't save the clinic? Later that evening, as Clara sat at her cluttered dining table, surrounded by hastily scribbled notes and patterns for event decorations, her phone rang. The sound startled her, and she fumbled to pick it up, breath hitching upon seeing James's name flashing across the screen. For a moment, she hesitated, heart racing, but she inhaled deeply and answered. Clara, his voice came through, steady yet carry a tremor of urgency. I know I owe you an explanation and I want to help, if you'll let me. Help? You've already kept secrets from me, James. She shot back, frustration boiling over. How do I know you're not hiding something else? Something that could hurt the town or me? There was a silence on the line, heavy and loaded. Just before she hung up, she heard him take a deep breath. I can't change the past, but I can help build a future. I need to speak with you. In person. Clara's heart skipped a beat at the thought. She hated how much she wanted to see him again despite the turmoil he caused. Fine. Tomorrow, she replied, her voice firm. The next day dawned gray and rainy, mirroring Clara's turbulent mood. She arrived at the clinic, her heart pounding as she pushed open the door. The smell of antiseptic and a lingering hint of flowers filled the air, reminding her of the urgency to save this place. She spotted James in the waiting area, his hands wrapped around a steaming cup of coffee, and he looked up at her, eyes dark with stories untold. Thank you for meeting me, he began, his voice quiet but earnest. I want to explain everything. But first, there is something I need to show you. Clara's brow furrowed in confusion. She watched as he rose, a determined glint catching the light, and motioned for her to follow. With each step, Clara felt an anxious mix of hope and dread. What could he possibly have to share that would alter her perception of him? As they stepped outside into the drizzle, he led her to a quiet corner of the clinic's garden, where the community had been planting flowers in preparation for the fundraiser. Look, he said, pointing to a colorful patch of blooms. These are from the donations the townspeople pitched in for. It's a symbol, Clara, a sign of hope. Tears pricked the corners of her eyes. She wanted to believe him, to believe in their joint efforts. But could she really trust him? Would she truly be willing to let him back into her life? Before she could respond, James continued, I've got a plan that can save not just the clinic, but also the community's spirit if you'll allow me to lead the way. With her heart heavy yet hopeful, Clara felt an ember of possibility ignite within her. Could she take this leap of faith? Just as she opened her mouth to agree, a loud crash echoed from the direction of the diner, shattering the moment. What was that? Clara exclaimed, instincts kicking in as they turned toward the sound. James exchanged a worried glance with her, and without a word, they rushed towards the source of the disturbance, uncertainty now heavily weighing upon them. What awaited them beckoned with choices they never anticipated, shifting the very course of their journey together. Clara and James sprinted toward the diner, each footfall echoing their rising concern. The rain turned the ground slick, and Clara's heart raced with every step. She could almost hear the chatter and laughter of townsfolk, now abruptly quieted by the unexpected noise. As they neared the entrance, Clara spotted a crowd gathering around a fallen sign, one that had tipped over with a loud crash, its wood splintering on impact. The air buzzed with murmurs, and she felt a wave of relief wash over her as she realized it was just the sign. But as she pushed through the crowd, her relief was replaced by a knot of anxiety. Is anyone hurt? She called out, scanning the faces around her for any sign of distress. James stepped beside her, his expression tense. Let's check inside, he suggested, and Clara nodded in agreement. They pushed through the door, the familiar scent of fried food and coffee hitting her like a warm embrace, now tinged with an undertone of worry. Inside, the diner was in chaos. Tables were knocked askew, chairs tipped over, and behind the counter, Mrs. Thompson struggled to lift a heavy pot that had fallen. Clara hurried to help her, and James moved to assist a couple of patrons who had stumbled from their seats. "Clara, I'm fine," Mrs. Thompson shouted, waving Clara away with a smile, though her eyes betrayed her age. "But thank you, dear. Just a little rattled." James finished up with the patrons and turned to Clara, concern etched on his face. "This could impact the fundraiser. We need to pull together fast." Right. Clara realized the implication. If the diner couldn't serve food due to this debacle, it could derail the entire event they had been counting on. "We need volunteers. Everyone in town will need to pitch in." James nodded and said, "I'll spread the word. We can get people to help clean up and prepare for the fundraiser at the clinic." Just then, a sharp voice pierced through the chaos. It was Tom, the town's grumpy mechanic, his hands on his hips. "What's all this fuss about? A few overturned tables and suddenly everyone turns into a bunch of chickens?" People laughed at Tom's humor, and it cut the tension. Clara took a breath and stepped forward. "Tom, can you set up food stations at the clinic? The diner isn't safe right now, but we have to keep this fundraiser alive." "Sure, kid," Tom replied, a grin breaking through his gruff exterior. Clara felt a rush of gratitude. Sometimes, it just took a little push to rally everyone. As they organized the townsfolk, Clara's heart warmed seeing their community come alive in the face of adversity. Yet, in the corner of her mind, a flicker of doubt about James remained. Could he be trusted to lead them through this? While the town buzzed with activity, Clara stole glances at James. He stood tall among them, a glint in his eye that spoke of determination. She could sense he was driven not just by his desire to help but perhaps by something deeper. A hope that he could right the wrongs of the past. "Clara," he said softly, leaning closer amid the bustling crowd. "Do you trust me?" Clara's breath hitched. Could she answer that honestly, knowing everything they had shared? All she wanted was stability, yet here was James, a whirlwind of secrets and surprises, pulling her closer. "Let's just focus on the fundraiser, James," she replied coolly, feeling a pang of regret. The moment they shared had already shifted something in her. Before he could respond, a loud crash came again, this time from outside, drawing everyone's attention. Clara's stomach dropped. "What now?" she murmured, half dreading the answer. Without a word, they rushed out to the street, wondering what new complication awaited them. What had they unleashed this time, and would it change everything yet again? Clara pushed through the crowd, her heart pounding again as the rain continued to pour. The air, heavy with the scent of wet asphalt and distant worry, beckoned her forward. She made her way past neighbors who were eagerly discussing the fallen sign. Hadn't they already been through enough chaos today? As she stepped outside, the scene before her sent an icy chill down her spine. A tree had fallen, narrowly missing a parked car and creating a cramped obstacle in the middle of the street. The branches were sprawled like a web, and several town members stood at a distance, apprehensive but unsure how to proceed. Who was watching that tree? This storm was coming down hard. Tom exclaimed, shaking his head. "Someone call Nick," James instructed, eyeing the fallen wood. "He'll know what to do." Clara felt her breath hitch again as she scanned the worried faces around her. The sense of urgency had reached a new height. If they didn't handle this quickly, there was a risk of injuries and further damage. "Okay, everyone," she shouted, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "We need a plan. If Nick can't get here fast, we'll need to find a way to clear the street ourselves." The townsfolk began to stir. People rushed off to find ropes and tools while others picked up phones to call for help. Clara felt a surge of adrenaline. Each task carried weight not just for the fundraiser but for their small-town spirit. James squeezed her arm, bringing her back to reality. "Are you okay?" he asked, concern lacing his voice. "I think so," she replied, swallowing hard. The warmth of his touch sent a small spark through her, reminding her that the real fight was more than just about events and fundraisers. There were deeper battles to face. "Why don't you take charge here?" he suggested, his eyes searching her face. "You know how to rally everyone. I can go check on Nick." Clara stood tall, feeling the pulse of leadership stir within her. "Yeah, let us do it. I'll organize the cleanup. But you be careful, okay? We can't lose you too," she added softly. He nodded, squeezing her hand before rushing back toward the diner. Clara took a brisk breath and turned to the crowd, a spark of determination igniting. "Let us get to work. We have a tree to move," she called, her voice rising above the chaos. As they set to work, Clara felt adrenaline wash over her, the feeling akin to being at the starting line of a race. Each person took their position, forming a line along the street. Together they began to lift branches piece by piece, sweat mixing with the rain. The camaraderie was palpable. Laughter mixed with shouts for safety and encouragement. Standing in the heart of it, Clara found herself smiling despite the downpour. She realized that maybe, just maybe, they could turn this disaster into something that strengthened their bonds even more. But among the laughter and hard work, a question tickled her mind. What exactly had James meant when he asked her if she trusted him? Was he hiding something from her? And if so, could she really lead their community while carrying that weight? As the sun started to peek through the clouds, casting a gentle glow over the drenched street, the tree was nearly cleared. Hope flickered in the air, but Clara's thoughts lingered on James. What had he meant? And what other secrets lay beneath the surface of his determined facade? Just then, she heard a shout come from behind James's voice, penetrating through the remnants of chaos. Clara spun around, her heart racing anew as she caught sight of him running back toward her. "Clara! You won't believe what I found." An unsettled feeling clawed at her stomach. "What now?" James was breathless as he approached, rain dripping from his hair, his expression a mixture of excitement and urgency. Clara could see the adrenaline coursing through him, the way his eyes sparkled, and it made her heart skip a beat. "What did you find? Is it something we can use?" she asked, her voice caught between hope and hesitation. He took a moment to steady himself, brushing a few wet strands from his forehead. "It's incredible. I was back at the diner when I overheard a couple of customers talking about the old storm cellar down the street. They said it's still solid and could serve as a temporary place for some supplies. We could even use it to keep things organized while we help with the cleanup." Clara's mind raced. The cellar could provide shelter for tools, even a first aid station if needed. That's brilliant. If we could set that up, we'd have a central spot to regroup and organize everything. But do you think it's safe? Her concern was heavy, remembering the fragile state of their surroundings. James nodded, his confidence unwavering. "I checked it out. It's a little muddy getting there, but it's intact. We can do this keep everything moving, especially if we end up needing more help." With renewed determination, Clara raised her voice again, welcoming those who had finished clearing branches. "All right, everyone. We have a plan. James has found the storm cellar, and we'll use it for supplies. Let us gather what we need, and I'll organize groups to set it up." Cheers erupted from the crowd, and Clara felt the swell of energy wash over her. They moved quickly, each person ready to pitch in. It was exhilarating. Everyone was focused and working together seamlessly, like pieces of a well-oiled machine. As they headed toward the cellar, Clara felt a flutter of pride for her neighborhood. They were forging ahead, proving their spirit was unbreakable in the face of setbacks. Yet, as they crossed the street, her mind flickered back to the question that loomed over her. What was James really hiding? Standing outside the cellar, Clara caught James's, searching for any hint of truth. "Are you all right?" she asked softly, letting the others pass through. "I mean, is there something important you aren't telling me?" His expression changed, the excitement fading to something more serious. "Clara, Before he could finish, the ground rumbled beneath them, a distant thunder echoing ominously. Clara's heart thumped in her chest, and she instinctively grabbed James's arm, feeling a bolt of fear. What was that? Just the storm, he reassured her, but the uncertainty in his eyes betrayed him. Clara swallowed hard, a knot forming in her gut. Just the storm, she repeated, but the unease wouldn't leave her. James was hiding something, and no distraction from the crisis would put her thoughts to rest. Together, they entered the cellar, the air cool and dark, filled with the earthy scent of damp earth. As the townsfolk started to unpack and organize, Clara felt the atmosphere shift. The enthusiasm melted slightly, clouded with the tension of unspoken words. When she locked eyes with James again, she expected a comforting smile, but he looked distant, like he was wrestling with a storm of his own. "Clara, I'll tell you everything soon. I promise," he said, lowering his voice as he stepped closer, his brown eyes sincere but shadowed with uncertainty. A tremor of doubt raced through her, and she forced a nod. She couldn't help but wonder what soon meant. With chaos swirling around them, the truth seemed far away. Just as Clara turned to focus on organizing the supplies, she heard a loud crash from outside, followed by a collective gasp from the townsfolk. She glanced back at James, and the expression on his face told her everything. Whatever lay outside the cellar was more than just bad weather. It felt like the storm was after them. Was this a sign of something bigger waiting to unfold? Without thinking, she grabbed James's hand. "Let's see what's going on." Together, they stepped toward the door, both sensing that whatever waited on the other side would change everything yet again. Clara pushed the cellar door open, the wood creaking as it gave way. The storm raged outside, the wind shrieking like a living thing. Rain lashed against the ground, soaking the earth and making everything gleam like glass. She squinted through the blinding sheets of water, trying to see what had caused the commotion. "Stay close," James urged, his grip firm around her wrist. As they stepped out together, their hearts raced in unison with the pounding rain. The street was chaotic, littered with branches and debris that danced wildly in the gusts. In the distance, Clara spotted a collapsed tree lying across the road, blocking the path to the main square. The crowd had gathered there, their faces a mix of shock and determination. Clara's gut twisted. If they couldn't remove it, emergency vehicles wouldn't get through. "Everyone, back up!" she shouted, raising her voice above the storm. But the adrenaline coursing through her veins drowned out the fear. James stepped beside her, scanning the scene while his brow furrowed in concentration. "We need to get that off the road," he said, teeth clenched against the howling wind. "If anyone is hurt inside the diner, they won't be able to help." Clara took a deep breath, steeling herself. "We need to form a chain, pass branches out of the way. That'll make it easier." They rallied the townsfolk, voices rising above the storm as people moved into position, their determination igniting more life into the chaos. Clara felt the rush of purpose, but as they worked, her thoughts lingered on James. He was focused, but she could see the shadows under his eyes. James. She leaned closer, seeking his gaze. "What's really going on? You've been odd since we got here. Is this about the cellar? Or something else?" He hesitated, the tension in his jaw tightening. "I'll explain, I swear. Just not now." The way he spoke, his voice thick with emotion, made her chest ache. The tree was heavy, its branches thick with rain-soaked leaves. As Clara grasped the end of a fallen limb and heaved with the group, she felt a renewed strength. But then, a blinding flash of lightning lit the sky, and thunder cracked loud enough to feel the ground tremble beneath her feet. "Move! Get clear!" James shouted, and in an instant, the atmosphere shifted. Clara turned just in time to see a flash of a larger branch surging dangerously toward them. "Get back!" She barely had time to react, but instinct propelled her into action, pushing James away just as the branch fell, splintering against the ground where they had just stood. A collective gasp rose from the group. Clara's heart raced as she caught her breath, the storm's fury around them jolting her senses. She looked at James, their eyes locking momentarily amidst the chaos. She could see the fear there, as if he had lost sight of her momentarily in that split second. "Are you okay?" he asked, concern lacing his voice as he stepped closer again. She nodded, but her heart twisted painfully. This wasn't just about the storm, it was about something deeper, something that clung to the connection they shared. This feeling between them was both a source of strength and an unyielding weight, but another crash echoed, stealing her focus once more. They turned back to the street. It felt like a nightmare unfolding, the kind you couldn't wake up from. "Stay on your toes," Clara yelled, rallying everyone again. "We keep pushing through." They formed another line, clearing more debris under the relentless storm. But every second seemed to stretch like hours. The heavy clouds above them roiled with anticipation. Something was coming, something bigger than all of them, and Clara could feel it in her bones. "Clara, we need to regroup." James's voice pulled her back from her spiraling thoughts. She turned to see him pointing toward the cellar's entrance. "They need to move supplies before this gets worse." "I know," she replied, frustration bubbling to the surface. "Stop trying to shield me. We can handle this together." He shook his head, determination etched in his features. But Clara saw the internal battle unfold. "I don't want to lose you," he barely whispered, voice breaking amid the turmoil. What did he mean by that? Clara's heart thudded heavily, the weight of what couldn't be said pressing down on them both. Just then, a flicker of movement behind James caught her eye, pulling her focus. As she turned, a shock ran through her. The distant figure that emerged from the storm wasn't just anyone, it was someone familiar. And just like that, the surface calm she'd felt shattered once more. "Who is that?" she breathed, urgency rising in her voice. James turned, and for the first time, Clara feared the answer could change everything. The figure trudging through the storm moved closer, and Clara's heart raced as recognition hit her. It was Richard, their former neighbor from the old town. She had known him since childhood, infuriatingly charming and often a source of trouble. His presence roiled a storm of emotions, rivaling even the wild weather. Why was he here now, of all times? "Richard!" she shouted, craning her neck as the rain lashed mercilessly against her face. Her voice barely sliced through the chaotic wind, but somehow he heard her. "Clara?" he called back, stumbling slightly as he maneuvered the drenched ground, his usual swagger replaced by urgency. "What on earth are you doing out here? Get to safety." She stepped forward through the chaos, her pulse quickening as she approached him. "We're trying to clear the road. People need help at the diner. We can't stop." James' eyes narrowed, a flash of protectiveness crossing his features. "It's too dangerous, Clara. Stay with me." His grip tightened on her arm, and he pulled her back slightly, concern flooding his gaze. A moment of tension crackled between them. But Clara felt the rising need to reconnect with her past, and she broke away from James' grasp. "No, we have to hear what Richard has to say." Richard reached them, panting and soaked to the bone. "Listen, there's more happening than just this storm. I was heading to the diner when I noticed smoke pouring out. The roof, it's not safe. We have to hurry." Clara's heart dropped. She felt the weight of heavy fear compressing her chest. "Smoke? And what about the people inside?" He hesitated, glancing back at the diner's direction. "I don't know. That's why we need to move now." Worry spun through her, intertwining with the adrenaline that had propelled her through the storm so far. Claire looked at James, then back at Richard. The urgency in his eyes told her they didn't have time to waste arguing over the best course of action. "James, we can't just stand here," she urged, her voice laced with desperation. "If the diner is on fire, those people need us. We have to get everyone to safety first, then tackle the tree." The wind howled, swirling around them wildly. Richard nodded in agreement, the fear palpable in his voice. "I saw a few folks struggling to get out. We need to move fast, Clara." James stared at her, something unspoken passing between them as shadows danced in his eyes. He didn't want to abandon the plan they had, yet he could see the fire in her determination. Finally, he relented, a resigned breath escaping his lips. "All right, let us go." As they surged forward together into the storm, another flash of lightning struck, illuminating the path ahead. They pushed through torrents of wind and rain, the whole town vibrating with chaos. Clara led the way, adrenaline now coursing through her veins as she steeled herself for what lay ahead. Once they reached the diner, Clara's breath caught. The building loomed like a dark fortress against the storm, smoke curling from a window at the back. People were rushing, and Clara's heart sank at the thought of the lives in jeopardy. "We have to help," she shouted, rallying the nearest bystanders. "Everyone, form a line. Let us get people out one by one." As they moved, Clara's breath seemed to catch in her throat, uncertainty clawing at her. But she couldn't falter now. The lives depending on her were more than just her community, they were also her friends, neighbors, people she had known for years. Yet, amidst the chaos, her thoughts strayed back to James. Was he truly with her in this? Could he fight through the storm inside of him as fiercely as he did outside? With nerves tingling and trepidation sinking deep, she glanced back to find him standing a step behind, a storm of his own brewing in his eyes. It was a moment suspended in time, their fates intertwined with the chaos unfolding around them, and then, as smoke thickened the air and figures inside cried for help, a final thought pierced through the tumult. What if this storm didn't just bring destruction but revelation? "Clara!" James' voice jarred her back, urgency cut through the moment. "We need to focus here. Now." Clara felt that weight of change brewing, a realization that they could emerge from this storm transformed if they could just keep moving forward together. But just as they took the first step toward the diner, the ground began to shake beneath them. What next? Clara wondered, dread curling in her gut. Would they make it in time? With a deep rumble, the earth shook under their feet, the tremor reverberating through Clara's bones. She stumbled slightly, catching herself against the diner's wooden siding, her heart racing. "What was that?" she gasped. "Just the storm," Richard replied, trying to sound insulated from the panic creeping into his own voice. "Stay close." They advanced together, aware that every precious second counted. The swirling winds blasted against them, carrying the scent of smoke and fear. Bystanders crowded around them, eyes wide with confusion and worry. Clara could feel the weight of their gazes, heavy with unspoken questions. Would they be able to save those trapped inside? As they pushed toward the diner's entrance, the cacophony of the chaotic storm forced Clara to raise her voice. "Anyone inside? Come to the front." The smoke billowed ominously, and Clara couldn't shake the feeling that the flames behind those walls might soon take everything. She turned to James, his face grim, and the lines of concern tightening around his mouth sent a chill through her. But as she looked deeper, she recognized a light waiting for a spark. He was there, present in this chaos, and so was she. Together, they could navigate the thorns of the night. Another tremor rippled, more vicious this time. "Move, everyone!" James shouted, rallying those closest. "Form a chain. Let us get them out." With renewed ferocity, accompanied by Richard, they began a grim march toward the entrance. Clara gripped James' arm tightly. "We can't linger, we need to get them out before it's too late." "On three." James called, steadying his breath. 1, 2, 3. Together, they burst into the diner, suffocating smoke enveloping them like a thick fog. Clara's mind raced. The acrid scent burned her nostrils, but she compelled herself to step through the billowing haze. There were muffled cries, choking sobs, fractured pleas mingled with the storm outside. "Over here!" Clara shouted, trying to pierce through the chaos. "Anyone who can hear me, make your way to the front." Richard swept past her, searching desperately for anyone who could still be inside. Deep shadows hung over the diner, matched only by the orange flickering light that hinted at the danger growing behind them. The adrenaline surged as she recognized the faces of friends, horror overtaking her heart. "Lily!" She called out, spotting a figure crouched low at one table. "It's Clara. Come with me." Lily looked up, fear stark in her eyes, but she hesitated. "I can't move. It's too hot." "Just hold on to me, I'll help you." With urgency, Clara extended her arm, and to her relief, Lily grasped it firmly, her breath hitching. Slowly, they made their way toward the doorway. Behind them, Richard emerged, supporting a frail elderly man, struggling but determined. "I've got him!" he yelled, determination fierce in his voice. As they stumbled toward the exit, Clara felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. Would they really make it? But that spark was quickly dampened as the ground shook again, a reminder that time was slipping through their fingers. "Faster!" James urged, panic now flaring in his tone. The flames danced higher, crackling ominously behind them, and Clara felt a rush of energy pack her limbs. The crowd outside, now a cascading ocean of anxious support, erupted as they all spilled from the diner. "Come on!" Clara shouted to those left behind, her voice hoarse yet resolute. "We can't stop now." Yet just as victory reached for them, the unthinkable happened. The ceiling above them began to sag dangerously, buckling under the weight of fire and debris. "Get down!" Richard cried, instinctively positioning himself to shield Clara and Lily with his body. What would happen next? Clara gasped, knowing more than ever that they were on a precipice, balancing between hope and destruction. Clara's heart pounded as the world around her warped into a nightmare. The sizzling heat wrapped around them like a torturous embrace, and panic turned her limbs to lead. She could hear the fierce crackling of flames at their backs, the sound insistent and hungry. It called out for the destruction of everything she held dear. "Lily, hold on to me!" she yelled again, the words barely escaping her lips over the tumult. She felt the warmth of the girl's hand gripping her tightly, a lifeline in a sea of chaos. Richard shielded them, but Clara couldn't help the dread creeping in. "We have to go," she urged, forcing the words to travel through the smoky haze. It felt like they were trapped in a slow-motion disaster, each second ticking painfully away. James stood firm, eyes darting around, taking in the severity of their plight. "I'll check the back. Keep them moving." Before Clara could respond, he broke away, disappearing into the dark. "Stay close," Clara urged Richard as they stumbled back toward the exit, but the roof creaked ominously above them. Clumps of debris fell, punctuating the air with sharp cracks that echoed her growing fears. They pushed through the suffocating mist, every breath a struggle. The din of the storm outside now crashed over them once more, urgency gnashing its teeth. Suddenly, the structure lurched, and Clara felt a tremor deep in her bones. "Look out!" Richard shouted as a wooden beam splintered and crashed to the floor, missing them by mere inches. The sight sharpened Clara's determination. They'd come too close to losing everything. "Lily, we have to go, now," Clara repeated, pulling on the girl's arm gently. "I can't make it. I can't," Lily cried, her voice burning with terror. Clara stopped, heart racing madly, a pulse of fear mixed with indignation. "You are strong," she insisted, voice fierce, gripping Lily's shoulders. "You've got to trust me. We can make it together." Another tremor rattled through the diner, parts of the ceiling collapsing, and Clara bit her lip hard to keep from screaming. This was it, she thought. They couldn't back down now, there was no time left. As if sensing Clara's resolve, Lily's eyes flickered with something fear mixed with hope. "Okay," she whispered, tears glistening in the smoke. "Okay." With a surge of strength, Clara twisted herself to help Lily rise, and they started forward. With each step, the heat intensified, but Clara felt a burning determination inside her. They were deeper into the diner, past the smell of burnt coffee and dreams, knowing they were mere moments away from either salvation or being consumed in the flames. They emerged at last from the choking smoke toward the light, but Clara quickly grasped for Richard, needing him close. "Richard! Get ready to help!" Suddenly, a deafening roar filled the air. Clara turned in horror as the remaining ceiling above James gave way, sending debris crashing down to where he had been last seen. "No!" Clara cried, sprinting forward, but Richard caught her arm. "We can't. We need to get to safety." "No." Clara's voice trembled, refusing to yield. James had gone in to save others, he wouldn't just vanish. She wrenched herself free, desperation clawing at her heart. "We have to go back. He might be trapped." But as Clara's world spun in chaos, doubt seeped in. What if she lost him forever? In that moment, the weight of decision collided with the ferocity of her heart. Clutching her breath, she took a step toward the wreckage, ready to fight against the fear. Then she heard it, faint yet familiar. The sound of James calling out. "Clara! Help!" Would she leap into the unknown or believe in the love they formed in the wreckage of uncertainty? The lines drawn in the smoke became lines of fate as Clara took one last breath, knowing her choice could change everything, and as hope hung by a thread, the primal instinct to save him burned bright within her. What would she decide to do next? Clara surged toward the crumbling wreckage, fear twisting in her gut. "James!" she shouted, her voice raw with desperation. "I'm coming." Her heart raced, pounding like a drum in a marching band, drowning out the chaos that surrounded her. She pushed past fallen debris, ignoring the burning heat that threatened to consume her. Behind her, Richard shouted, but Clara didn't look back. She couldn't. Not when James's voice pierced the smoky haze again. "Clara! Help!" It came from somewhere beneath the heavy timbers, and she felt the urge to leap forward like a flame seeking the sky. "Hold on!" she cried, scrambling over splintered beams. Each step was a battle against her fear, but she was fueled by the thought of James's determination, his laughter, the connection they had forged amidst all the turmoil. "I'm almost there." Finally, as she clawed through the wreckage, she spotted him, his form sprawled awkwardly below a fallen beam. Panic surged through her veins. "Stay still, James. I'll get you out." She surveyed the precarious wooden structure above him, heart racing. "Don't do it, Clara," he urged, eyes wide with both urgency and pain. "It's not safe." But Clara couldn't rest until he was free. "I won't leave you." Using all her strength, she tugged at the debris looming over him. It felt impossibly heavy, but determination coursed through her. With a final push, she managed to shift the beam just enough for James to scramble from beneath. Dust-covered and breathless, he looked at her with wide, incredulous eyes. "You shouldn't have come back," he said, voice strained. "Like I'd leave you." She snapped, her heart bursting with relief. But the moment was too fragile. A creak echoed ominously, and Clara's instincts screamed at her to run. "We need to go. Fast." She grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the way they had come, adrenaline propelling them forward as a thunderclap roared above. As they stumbled back outside, the storm still raged, but the realization of their survival wrapped around them like a warm blanket. The diner loomed behind them, both familiar and terrifying, dark against the swirling chaos but standing tall, defiantly drenched. "Everyone's waiting, we have to help them," James said, regaining composure. His breath mingled with the rain, eyes hardening as he scanned the scene, now intent on rescuing their town. Clara nodded, her heart racing anew. They moved to the front lines, shouting for anyone still inside. Together, they formed teams, guiding neighbors and friends away from danger, pulling them to safety. Clara's heart swelled with strength, a chorus of voices blending into one. "We're almost there. Keep moving." Through the storm's fury, the tension lifted just enough for hope to bloom. As they regrouped by the street, Clara caught a glimpse of Richard and Lily, both shaken but safe. Relief washed over her. "Is everyone okay?" she asked, scanning the crowd. The townspeople nodded, unity shining through the chaos. Then, as the last few were ushered out of the diner, James grasped Clara's hand, pulling her close. You are incredible, he breathed, his expression a mix of awe and something deeper. There was a moment of silence, the world pausing amid the chaos, as they locked eyes, but the moment was interrupted by the sound of sirens wailing in the distance. Help had arrived. The townsfolk began to cheer, voices lifting against the dark sky. Clara felt her heart swell as she realized their spirit was unbreakable, forged anew in the fires of hardship. Together, she whispered, squeezing James's hand. We did this together. His smile was radiant, breaking through the storm clouds. And we'll keep doing it, he replied, with fierce determination. They would face whatever challenges lay ahead, no longer defined by pasts or secrets but by their commitment to Maplewood and each other. As the skies began to clear, the weight of uncertainty lifted. Clara turned to her community, feeling a surge of connection and love. This was home. They were family. They would stand together, every single one of them, united in strength. Clara looked at James. Beside her, and in that moment, she understood something profound. They had saved themselves by rescuing one another, through every storm and chaos. The lines of their futures intertwined, glowing with the promise of tomorrow. With the first rays of sunlight breaking through the darkness, she knew they could rise from any ashes. She squeezed James's hand tighter, ready to embrace whatever came next. And for the first time in a long time, everything felt right. Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support and be part of our amazing community. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, make a difference and help us grow. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about the ending. Let your voice be heard. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible transformation. Your support is what keeps us going.